Okay, so first up we're going to make a night nappy. So I have a cloth tie nappy, I have a muslin square that's pre-folded, and I'm just going to finish the fold. I've got a terry liner and a hemp cotton liner, folding the two together and then folding those into the muslin cotton square. I've got a wool booster underneath, folding down the back only slightly because there's a lot of bulk there, and then just packaging this up ready to use when it comes to night time. I just tie it all up nice and neatly. You don't need to do this step, but it just makes it look cute and keeps everything nice and neat in my basket. Second style I'm going to make is also with a muslin square. This is for quite a heavy wetter. With a hemp cotton liner rolled into that. Also good for catching poos because of the way that the muslin square wraps around the bum. So if you've got runny poos, that helps if it's a newborn. That's style number 2. Relatively bulky. I use just a very thin angle nappy cover over the top of that one. And I'll just make a few more of those until I've used all my muslin squares. I think I've got about 10 muslin squares in total, but some will always obviously be in the wash. But I do like these ones, even though my boy doesn't have explosive newborn poos anymore. These do just seem really good for him as a heavy wetter, and given that it's been 40 degrees here in Western Australia and I only want to use the very thin angle covers, this style is thicker in terms of the liner, so it allows me to just have a thin cover over the top. Whereas you'll see in a minute, I have some alternative styles. If you're using a thicker, like Disana wool cover, you can then get away with a much trimmer liner, which is great. So the stash I'm making here should last me a couple of days usually. So I hope generally only make nappies every couple of days, and do washing every couple of days as well. And with my last muslin square, I'm going to make up a second night nappy. I do also put a wool booster like I did with the one earlier, but that's still airing out from Last night, so this one I'll just add the wool booster at the last minute, but this gives me a couple of night nappies then made up, which is great because there's nothing worse than getting to bedtime and the mad rush that is with 2 children and not having a night nappy ready to go. So if all I've got to do is grab a booster, then that helps a lot. So more info on how these nappies are made with sort of slowed down, and more information on exactly what's in there is coming in another video. And then style number 3. So I've got the terry organic cotton squares left. Now I've used all my muslins, so I'll wrap a hemp cotton liner in a terry square. So this isn't going to be as great at catching newborn poos. Obviously, as you can see, it's got nothing that wraps around the bum, but it is very absorbent with the terry and then the hemp cotton liner together. So I'm finding this is just as effective really as the alternative style, especially now my boy is not doing newborn poos anymore. So I can use basically either option throughout the day and get a good fair few hours of before I need to do a new nappy change. So I have a fair amount of these I can make up with the terry squares I have. I think I have 10 terry squares as well, 10 muslin cotton liners. I think I've got 15 hemp cotton liners, if not more. I have 20. And then I have 25 of the Disana tie nappies. So I generally have about 2 days worth of nappies made up, between, depending on how often I do the washing, between 4 and 9 nappies in the wash, and I generally have about 4 tie nappies left over, which I don't have enough liners for. But I think as he grows and gets past that 6-month mark, where they're sort of heaviest wetters up to this 6-month mark, where they're just on fluids. Once we get over that hump and we're on solids, I think we'll be able to do the trimmer style of liner, which is coming up, and I'll be able to therefore utilise all 25 of my tie nappies, and if anything I'll probably end up with liners left over rather than tie nappies left over, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just adapting to the ages and stages, as with everything, isn't it? But yes, obviously looking forward to having a bigger stash made up, which will probably last me maybe 3 days or something. We'll see. He's currently 4 months old, so we'll see in another couple of months what things are looking like. And finally, the fourth style of nappy. So all I've got left now is these hemp cotton liners. So just wanting to utilize those really and having as many nappies available to me as possible. So I've just rolled 2 of those together. This is obviously a lot less absorbent than the other styles I've been showing you, and over the top of this I would utilize a Disana wool cover instead, because this wouldn't get me very long at all with my usual thin angle ones. But the weather is taking a turn here in Western Australia. We're going into autumn now. We've had a few sort of more cooler mornings and cooler days, so I think in the coming months I'll be able to utilize the style. I'm just evaluating whether I think this is going to absorb enough, but I have since actually tried it on my son and it did pretty well. The only thing I would say is I felt like there was more moisture held closer to the skin, but I have only tried this once or twice on him, so I'm going to give it a few more times and see. It could have just been sort of a once off. But with the designer cover, which are much thicker, that was actually worked, which was great. So I'll be able to make a few of those. Depending on what I've got left. I would be super interested to know what other people use for their liners in Disana cloth tie nappies.